Summer is here, and everything you need for adventure is waiting at shockshop.us. Gear up with camping essentials, stylish bathing suits for fun in the sun, reliable generators for every outdoor trip, kayaks, dinghies, and water toys for non-stop excitement. From backyard fun to lakeside escapes, shockshop.us has it all. Shop the summer sale now and save big at shockshop.us.
NASCAR world stunned after disturbing 911 call details emerge before Kyle Busch's death. The racing world is still struggling to process the sudden death of NASCAR superstar Kyle Busch after new reports revealed the frightening medical emergency that unfolded just hours before his passing. Busch, one of the most accomplished and controversial drivers in modern NASCAR history, died Thursday, May 21st at the age of 41 after being hospitalized with what officials described only as a severe illness. According to reports from multiple outlets, a 911 call placed Wednesday evening from a training facility in Concord, North Carolina, painted a terrifying picture of Busch's condition in the final hours before he was rushed to the hospital. The caller reportedly told emergency dispatchers that the veteran driver was coughing up blood, having difficulty breathing, and believed he was close to passing out. The emergency call, reportedly made around 5:30 p.m., described Busch as being conscious but lying on the bathroom floor while struggling through an intense respiratory episode. Dispatch audio obtained by several media organizations indicated the caller urgently requested medical assistance after noticing Busch's worsening condition. The shocking details surfaced less than a day after NASCAR fans first learned Busch had been hospitalized. Earlier Thursday morning, his family announced that the two-time Cup Series champion would miss this weekend's races in Charlotte while receiving treatment. Hours later, NASCAR, Richard Childress Racing, and Busch's family confirmed the heartbreaking news that the racing icon had died. Busch had reportedly been at a Chevrolet simulator and training facility in Concord when the medical emergency unfolded. Earlier accounts from the Associated Press stated the driver became unresponsive while using a racing simulator before emergency crews transported him to a nearby hospital. No official cause of death has been released. The sudden loss sent shockwaves through the motorsports community because Busch had still been actively competing at NASCAR's highest level only days earlier. In fact, less than a week before his death, Busch celebrated a Truck Series victory at Dover Motor Speedway, earning the 69th Truck Series win of his legendary career. Even after that victory, however, Busch admitted publicly that he had not fully recovered from an illness that had lingered for weeks. Speaking to reporters following the race, Busch acknowledged he was still dealing with a severe cough and ongoing respiratory symptoms. Video from post-race interviews showed the NASCAR star sounding exhausted as he described the illness continuing to affect him physically. Days earlier at Watkins Glen International, Busch reportedly asked his team over the radio to locate a doctor immediately after the race. During the broadcast, commentators noted he had been battling what was initially believed to be a sinus-related illness that had worsened during competition. Over team radio, Busch specifically requested NASCAR physician Dr. Bill Heisel meet him following the event because he needed medical treatment urgently. Fans listening to the exchange at the time had little reason to believe the situation would later become fatal. Now those moments are being revisited with sadness across the NASCAR community. Busch's death marks one of the most shocking losses the sport has experienced in decades. Known by fans as Rowdy, Busch built a Hall of Fame career over more than 20 years in NASCAR, becoming one of the winningest and most polarizing figures the sport has ever seen. He captured NASCAR Cup Series championships in 2015 and 2019 while piling up victories across every major national NASCAR division. Busch retired with 63 Cup Series wins, 102 Xfinity Series victories, and 69 Truck Series wins, more combined National Series victories than any driver in NASCAR history. Tributes immediately poured in from drivers, teams, broadcasters, and fans around the world after the announcement of his death. Fellow competitors described Busch as one of the most naturally gifted race car drivers they had ever seen, while longtime rivals reflected on his fierce competitiveness and unmatched determination behind the wheel. The joint statement released by NASCAR, Richard Childress Racing, and Busch's family called him a once-in-a-generation talent whose impact on the sport stretched far beyond race victories. He was fierce, passionate, immensely skilled, and cared deeply about the sport and the fans. Throughout a career spanning more than 2 decades, Kyle set records, won championships, and helped inspire the next generation of drivers. Beyond racing, Busch was also known for his devotion to his family. He is survived by his wife Samantha and their 2 children, Brexton and Lennox. In the days before his death, Busch had posted publicly about celebrating his son Brexton's birthday, making the news even more emotional for longtime supporters. Now, the racing world is left mourning a driver whose career ended far too soon, and whose final days were marked by a frightening medical struggle few outside his inner circle fully understood. In the hours after Kyle Busch's death was confirmed, an overwhelming sense of disbelief spread throughout the NASCAR garage. Drivers who had competed against him for years struggled to find words strong enough to describe the magnitude of the loss. Crew members embraced in silence. Fans gathered outside Charlotte Motor Speedway, leaving flowers, die-cast cars, handwritten letters, and candles near the track entrance as tributes continued to grow throughout the night. For many inside the sport, the hardest part to comprehend was how recently Busch had still appeared to be functioning normally. Only days before the emergency call, he was climbing from his truck at Dover after another dominant performance, smiling in victory lane despite visibly fighting through illness. Television interviews from that weekend now carry a haunting tone in hindsight, as Busch repeatedly referenced a lingering cough and exhaustion that he could not seem to shake. At the time, most assumed it was simply another example of a veteran racer competing through discomfort, something Busch had built a reputation around for most of his career. NASCAR drivers often race sick, injured, dehydrated, or exhausted during grueling schedules that leave little time for recovery. But according to those close to the situation, Busch's symptoms had become increasingly concerning over the previous 2 weeks. Friends say Busch hated missing races and rarely admitted weakness publicly. That mentality helped define his legendary career. From the moment he entered NASCAR's national spotlight in the early 2000s, Kyle Busch became known as one of the fiercest competitors the sport had ever seen. He drove with aggression, emotion, and absolute confidence, characteristics that earned him millions of fans while also making him one of NASCAR's most polarizing figures. His statistics became almost unbelievable. Busch won races on superspeedways, short tracks, road courses, intermediates, dirt tracks, and virtually every type of circuit NASCAR visited. He dominated trucks and Xfinity races while simultaneously competing full-time in the Cup Series, often racing 3 separate events during a single weekend. He became especially feared in lower divisions, where younger drivers often found themselves battling one of the greatest talents in the history of the sport. While critics sometimes argued he raced too aggressively or entered too many lower series events, even his harshest detractors admitted Busch possessed generational ability behind the wheel. Busch was involved in heated feuds with drivers, confrontations on pit road, emotional radio outbursts, and dramatic post-race interviews that made him one of the sport's most talked-about personalities. Yet over time, many fans who once booed him began respecting the honesty and passion he brought to NASCAR every week. Unlike many modern athletes trained to avoid controversy, Busch rarely hid his emotions. When he was angry, fans knew it instantly. When he was frustrated with his car, crew, or competitors, television audiences heard it live over the radio. And when he won, nobody celebrated harder. Behind the scenes, those closest to Busch often described a different side of the driver than the fiery public image fans saw on Sundays. Friends and team members frequently spoke about his loyalty, his dry sense of humor, and his dedication to helping younger racers develop through Kyle Busch Motorsports. His dramatic championship victory in 2015 remains one of NASCAR's greatest comeback stories after returning from devastating leg injuries suffered earlier that season. Against all odds, Busch recovered in time to qualify for the playoffs before eventually capturing his first Cup Series title. 4 years later, he secured a second championship in 2019, cementing his place among NASCAR's all-time elite. Despite being in his 40s, Busch remained highly competitive and continued winning races against a younger generation of drivers. His Truck Series victory at Dover just days before his death demonstrated that his instincts and racecraft had not diminished. The Busch family has requested privacy as they mourn. Meanwhile, NASCAR officials are expected to honor Busch extensively during upcoming race weekends. Discussions are reportedly underway regarding permanent tributes, memorial paint schemes, and special ceremonies recognizing his extraordinary contributions to the sport. For more than 2 decades, Kyle Busch's voice, personality, and presence were impossible to escape in NASCAR. Whether he was winning races, arguing on the radio, celebrating in victory lane, or playing the villain fans loved to hate, Busch brought energy to every event he entered. Now, that presence is suddenly gone. And for a sport built on speed, noise, and adrenaline, the loss has left behind an emptiness few imagined possible.